Okay.
Okay, we'll start with Alla, and I've got your spelling on my phone, so I think I've got. Now, how do you say your last name?
Alla Koreninova.
Korinova.
Koreninova. When you look at it, there's no hidden letters.
Okay.
So it's fairly easy if you look at it.
Good. So let's just get to your story. So you have been here for, you said, 12 or 13 years.
Yep.
What brought you from Ukraine to the United States?
So my first experience in U.S. was when I was exchange student. I was 15.
Yeah.
Lived in Texas. Since then, I went back to Ukraine. I finished university there. And through university, I was coming to U.S. for internships, summer jobs. And one of those summer jobs was right here in Sioux Falls. I was working at a greenhouse.
Okay.
Absolutely loved it. Never thought I'm going to enjoy agriculture, but it took my heart. It was so special for me, and I decided to stay here. I met my husband here, and now 12 years later, I'm managing that greenhouse in Sioux Falls.
Which one?
That's what I do for work. It's called Natural Beauty.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where is that in Sioux Falls?
West side of Sioux Falls, off of TLS Road. We wholesale to Home Depot and Menards all across Midwest. But because we wholesale, people don't usually know about us or what we do back there.
Okay. Yeah, this is where I asked Troy, do you know if we have any footage of that place?
Probably not.
Okay. Would your employers mind if we decided we wanted to go just take a few shots at the place?
Absolutely.
Okay. I figured they wouldn't.
I'd let you.
So went within how long when you had moved to Sioux Falls did you meet your husband?
That same year.
That same year.
Yep.
Okay.
And we're from two countries in Europe that are not right next to each other, but we met here.
Yeah, where's he from?
He's from Moldova.
Moldova. Okay.
And Moldova is going to play a role in the rest of our Ukrainian story once the war starts.
Okay. And so you're here, you've met your husband. Any kids?
Yep, we have one 10-year-old. He's actually turning 10 today.
Okay. Well, happy
shout out
birthday to
to
him. No kidding.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What's his name?
Daniel.
Daniel. Okay. And I mean, up until the Ukraine war started, it was just you two, and then Daniel.
Yeah.
How often would you touch base, talk to people at home, or email, text, and how often would you go back?
Right. We've always had a message group where we all send pictures. Our grandparents demanded pictures daily. So we've always exchanged pictures of our kids and what we're doing. I would call usually every weekend.
Okay.
As to visiting, the year that the war started was supposed to be my first year to visit Ukraine again.
Wow.
Because it took me that long to get my citizenship and to be able to travel back and forth to Ukraine.
Okay.
So that year was going to be the year that I would go back and visit.
And so that was about, you had been here for about 10 years.
At that point.
How hard was that? Did anybody ever come and visit here?
Yes, my parents visited since my son was born. They were visiting a few times and stayed with us for longer times. And
you said this area, the job and generally South Dakota kind of took your heart, but I mean, even to this day, obviously you're not going back all the time. I mean, you still haven't been back.
I have not been back.
How does that make you feel? What does that put you through?
I reflected on that a lot. I feel like when you're younger, you're just building a life here and you're so excited about things that are happening here and everything is still new. So at first it was easy to not visit. It just felt like you miss your family, but you didn't really miss your hometown as much. But I feel like the longer I've been here, getting towards those 10 years and knowing that I now have a passport to travel, I definitely had a feeling of, I want to walk the streets I walked when I was a kid. I want to show my son and my husband where I grew up. I want to make sure I see the school I went to and the home that I grew up in. So it's definitely that nostalgia was setting in, and I was very, very excited to go visit.
Did you have a trip and a date and stuff like that already planned? Flight?
No flights booked, but we definitely had dates in mind where we could travel that would be around what I do at work. That would work for us. So that was going to be December, January, and the war started in February.
Okay, wow. So, just this is going to sound like such a vague question, but I mean, what has this war put you through? Just continuing to follow up
Right.
each and every day.
I can definitely tell that the beginning of the war was raw. That was when, you know, your parents, your sisters are telling you it's real. They're seeing tanks on the streets. They're hearing gunfire. That was just a very surreal feeling. Like, how could that be somebody's truth in a country so developed and so out there in the middle of Europe? And just having a feeling of you can't do anything about it. Like, if there was any money in the world that could Uber a tank out to where they were at and just get them out of there, I would do it. But there was just nothing that you could do to safely get them even across the county line to get them out of the danger. So that was very surreal to just sit there and wait. But I cannot even imagine what my sisters went through, seeing it in person, probably feeling the same out of control, and the fear for the kids and all those things that came with the unknown of a war. It's not like anyone knows what's going to happen next.
So, what's the name of your hometown?
Sumy.
How do you spell that?
S-U-M-Y. S-U-M-Y.
That's it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's easy.
Yep.
Sumy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And it's a very northeast of Ukraine, so right up against Russia. So then they saw tanks before the official invasion message came through.
So is it one of the first places
To be occupied,
to be
for
occupied?
sure.
One of the first places. One of the first places to be occupied.
Mm-hmm.
And you said it was bombed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like how brutally was it
So
bombed?
they learned what air sirens are, or air raid sirens, warnings are, and that meant you need to take shelter. But nobody really knew what that means. They just sometimes would run down to the basement thinking that would be safer. Sometimes they would just stay within interior walls of their own house. Then they were getting messages that you should run to an actual designated bomb shelter, which means you're hearing the sirens, you're hearing gunfire. Are you really taking your kids outside and running to a bomb shelter? Those are decisions they had to make on the fly. And a lot of the times they would go to sleep or take shifts going to sleep to listen for the air raid sirens and wake up to new news of this neighborhood had a bomb that was dropped, and this school is on fire, and this university is in flames. And I remember seeing videos of tanks that are destroyed and burning right on the street where I used to go to my college, right around the corner. Those were the messages or the images that they were seeing right in their town where they lived.
And by the way, how big is this city? Like how many?
I don't know how many people would you say. Maybe like Sioux Falls. Okay. About the size of Sioux Falls.
That's a couple 100,000?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so you, I mean, I can't wait would be a bad word, but I'm interested to hear what it's like to live there at this time from you two. So, but these are streets, so you're watching from afar, exact places you had frequented, getting bombed. Now, so the natural question is just what goes through your mind and your heart when you see that?
You just hope that your sisters and your parents keep coming through on those group messages, and I would send a message and watch if they've seen it. Means they open the chat. That would be the only really indicator for me that they're still okay. A lot of the times when they went into those bomb shelters and basements, there would be no cell service. So then you get a news of air raid siren, and then you know it's going to be silence for a while. And then they would say things like, "I'm scared, but we're staying in our apartment," or "We are back up to our apartment from the shelter, from the basement." Then you know they're okay again.
what kind of emotions do you go through?
I don't know if I can even describe it. You're just, easy way to say is worried, but it's something else. Like you're just always on edge while you still have to go to work, right? Wake up your kid in the morning and smile and find the normal, I guess, because you have to keep going. I think at that time, work and family was definitely a welcome distraction. And I reflect on this often. The very first night I found out that the war started, I was awake early and we were, messaging and talking with my parents. And then I went to work that next morning and I'm just in my office on edge, like not having one world going on inside of you and smiling and being a manager in another world until somebody asked. They said, I heard about Ukraine, and I would just break down because that's when those two worlds kind of like, oh, people know and they care. And that was like an opening window for me of I need to tell others and tell them that there's somebody right here in Sioux Falls that has connections in Ukraine and is struggling. So that was my first time realizing that people care. Yeah.
Well, and from that moment on, it's been over 2 years now. So it's February of what year was it?
2022.
22?
Yep.
Okay,
so in February will be 3 years.
Yeah.
Definitely 2.5.
So your coworkers made you feel better. I mean, what's from that standpoint? What's the experience been like to live here, specifically South Dakota, or maybe even specifically Salem because you live here? But just in general, what's that like for you? What kind of support do you feel?
Yeah. I mean, I've lived at that point in Sioux Falls area and in Salem for a while, so I knew people were nice and they're caring. But to know that they would take your side in this kind of situation, right? In the world that's as divided as it is right now, to have every single neighbor, people that would meet me outside, people I know through my gym community and running would come up to me and take my side, really. They would say, this is unbelievable what's going on. Do you need anything? Is there something we can do? And then knowing that once we knew that my sisters were able to come here, that they're coming to this welcoming environment. When people in Salem found out that my sisters are going to be coming, and they were coming with at that time a 4 and a 5-year-old, 3 and a 4.
It's okay.
I think she was 2.
Okay. So with little kids, when my neighbors, really everyone in Salem found out, I had car seats dropped off at our house. We had strollers dropped off, bikes, bags of clothes. So that is the community that we have here. They didn't know who these girls are. They didn't know they didn't even ask what they need. They just kept coming with what they had.
Before I forget, how is all your family there? I mean, to cut to the chase, have you lost anybody?
Yes, unfortunately, our family is pretty small, and it still affected us, I guess. So it's my sisters, their families are here. My mom and dad.
So you're the 3 kids of your mom. This is it. All of you right here. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Our mom and dad are here now. It took them a while, but they're here.
How long have they been here?
With us. They've been here for a year, so it took them an extra year to
Is everybody
decide.
here?
So for a while, we all lived in this house.
Wow.
So we went from a household of 3 to a household of 9 plus.
So let me try to get pop quiz for me. So 3, obviously your husband, and Daniel, and then those 2, that's 5.
Yep.
And then so each of you have 1 kid.
Yep.
And then the 2 parents. Okay.
Yep. At this point, my sisters are on their own, and just my parents are still staying with us
Okay.
here.
I think I'll ask. Well, how'd you get, at what point, how difficult or easy was it? And when and how did it finally happen that you got, and did you two come together same time? Okay, like same plane flight and everything?
Yeah.
With your
Little
kids?
kiddos.
Yes.
Okay. So, how, from your vantage point, what kind of a process was that?
Yep.
To make it happen? How long had the war been going on? I'll ask you that.
So war started in February.
Okay.
The girls got here in July, actually.
February
Jul-
24?
22 is the
well,
war.
The war started, yeah, okay.
February 2022.
Okay.
They were here July 3rd of 2022, so the day before 4th of July,
Okay.
2022. So the war started in February. In April of 2022, so just 2 months later, U.S. has already created a path for Ukrainians to reunite with their families in U.S. So you would say 2 short months for how policies are made, but that was probably the longest 2 months I have ever known. I have worked with a lot of our local representatives here to try and push that through. And I know people in other states did as well. There's a lot of Ukrainians that just felt helpless and they felt like they want to help their family in Ukraine, but they couldn't. The war is not an exception of any immigration rules. They still had to get appointments in their embassies and had a 2-year wait for a visa. So U.S. created a path in April for U.S. for people here in U.S. to become sponsors to their Ukrainian family members and be able to bring them in to Ukraine.
Okay. So the United States, our federal government had to create a new, basically, law that helped you guys get here.
Yep.
Okay. And just in general, which local representatives did you have to work with?
I remember talking to Dusty Johnson,
Okay.
and I did a message with Thune and Rounds.
And what kind of response did you get from them?
They did just cite that here's what the options are right now.
Okay.
That they can't come on a short notice, and like I said, the war is not an exception to that. But
Take me back to the moment when did your parents came after your sisters came? Okay. I'll start with when they got here. What was that like for you? I mean, it had been, you hadn't seen them in how long? 10 years?
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah.
How old were they at the time?
So I was 20 when I came here.
Okay.
So my sister was 22 last time I saw her, and my little sister was then 13 when I last saw her.
Okay. So you just describe, I'm sure you picked them up at the airport, I'm
Yep.
guessing.
Sure did.
What was that like?
Picked him up at the airport. It was very, I think the anticipation was scary. You felt like, I haven't seen him for so long. We've talked on Skype, but you haven't seen him for so long. You wonder if you're going to even connect anymore. But as soon as we gave each other hugs, and I remember that feeling of sitting down in the car, looking back at him and being like, have you always been here? Like, have we not had any time apart? That's how it felt, and that's what I think family is.
Yeah.
No matter how long you're apart, in seconds, you're just like, we've been like this forever. So.
And I mean, were you guys pretty close as sisters? You were. So what's it been like to be reunited and living together? Do you two still live here?
They live in
In
Salem.
Salem, but not in the
In the
same
house?
Yeah.
So how long did you live in the house before you moved to Salem? Or before you moved out of the house?
A year?
A year, okay.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Close quarters.
what's
9 months.
the experience been like after 10 years away? Now you get to see them probably almost every day. Every day.
Yep.
What's that like for you?
It was actually awesome. I think we made the best of it. We felt like that was the most support we have ever had in each other, because having younger kids, it was nice to know that, okay, I can get up and leave for work because my sisters are here. They'll get my kid up and get him to school or on the bus. I mean, that's the best feeling there is, especially if it's your sisters that you trust. Yeah. And to watch my son start building a relationship with both of them was pretty special too. They each connected with him on a different level because they both have different personalities that maybe match my son a little better than mine. We don't clash as much.
Okay.
So that was very special for me to see them build relationships, and for me to be able to build a relationship with their kids.
So what? So there's a couple gaps to fill in here because this whole thing over here is awesome, but back over there.
Yeah.
When did your parents? How long after? It was July 22 that you two were here. How long after that were your parents here? And how? And what was the hang up? Why didn't? What took them longer?
So my mom came then in April of 2023.
Okay.
And my dad came in September of 2023. For them, it was just hard to leave their home behind. They felt like that's all they've been working for. It's something of their own. We've heard a lot of, I've grown up here, or if I'm meant to pass away here, this is what it's going to be. They knew that coming to a different country, they're going to be nobody here or not know anything or anyone. So they felt, unfortunately, that a short life there is still better than being torn out of what they know and be here. But I think the longer it went on, the less hope they had that it will be over. And we've begged them to come for a very long time until we stopped. And instead we were just sending pictures of kids and trying to impact them that way of, your grandkids miss you, they're all here, you're loved here, you're needed here. That's really how my mom decided to come when we told her that, hey, the girls are ready to start working full time. The kids are ready to start going to school, but part-time. So we really could use some support here. That's how we got our mom to finally come. And then it took my dad a while because he felt like he needs to stay there and in a way protect the home that we have. Even though, what control did he really have over what's going to be bombed next, right? Yeah.
So it was, so there was definitely some truth to where you needed some support, but that was the kind of, but more than anything, you just wanted her here.
Oh, absolutely. Because then this whole entire time, it was still daily checking the news, checking what town is getting bombed, where exactly it landed, because we would sometimes see it on the news before we hear from them.
How, there's so many. There's so many avenues I can go down after the answer each of your questions. How bad to this point is the destruction of SUNY? How would you describe it right now?
I would say there's a lot of little towns coming up to Summit from the border. A lot of them are wiped down completely. There's nothing and nobody alive there at all. Summit at this point, I bet at least 10% of buildings are destroyed. But only, I would say, maybe about half of the people that live there actually left. So there's still a good amount of people that are still there. And I wouldn't know who would know how to explain their thinking. Why would you not go and live somewhere safer? There's still millions of people that are choosing to live in Ukraine and are not looking to leave for a safer life.
What's it like every day to see the news, to know it's still going on and on and on and on?
I think the most terrifying thing, and I can only imagine for my sisters because they know a lot more people there still, I'm always scared to recognize somebody in the pictures. Anytime I see the videos or pictures, I want to see it because I want to know what's going on, but I'm terrified to recognize somebody.
Yeah. And that's where I ask again, so everybody in your family, everybody's still alive?
Except our cousin. Our cousin, I should wait for that truck. Our cousin was fighting the war. Not from the beginning, because in the beginning he still had his disabled mom to take care of. So he did that for at least a year, I would say, since the war started. But when she passed away, which would be my mom's sister, when she passed away in Ukraine, he enlisted and went fighting on the front lines. And we got those news actually from a Facebook post, which just adds to my anxiety of seeing pictures from back home.
Is this a cousin you guys were close to?
Yep. We lived on the opposite sides of the country, so we didn't get to see each other that often. But we were definitely, like I said, our family's pretty small. We don't have a big net of cousins, so we still stayed very close. And I posted some pictures from our childhood that I like to remember and buy, because us being three sisters, having a brother, a cousin, was always somebody we've looked up to.
I'm the same way. I'm an only child, so any the cousins closest in age to me were like that. Oh, that's the closest thing I have to a brother or sister. Have you lost? In general, how many people do you know, or you were close with, friends, schoolmates, do you know of that you've lost?
Yeah.
Do you have a number on that?
I don't think I'd even have a number, but I know a lot of people I went to school with, a lot of people we played in the neighborhood with have passed away. Some are fighting. Many are in different countries in Europe, but we've definitely lost a lot of people. Again, you watch those Facebook posts carefully just to stay informed, but very anxiously because you're afraid to recognize somebody.
I mean, I hate to belabor this question. Like, has it been dozens, hundreds of people?
I would say dozens for me. I don't know.
Not that many.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Most of my close friends left the country.
Okay.
And yeah, I have a bunch of people who are in armed forces right now.
And then the obvious question comes to your husbands. They're fighting. Are they? Why aren't they here? I guess
they are here.
They are here. Oh, that's right. They are here now.
Yeah.
Did either of them stay back to fight?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No. They stayed back in Ukraine first, but they were never, I don't know, enlisted or drafted, would you say? What's the word? Drafted, probably.
Okay.
They continued working. One of them is a banker and one of them is a lawyer.
Okay.
So they continued working in that town of Sumy until they left to come here.
Okay. But they were planning and trying to get here through the same channels that you two came and your parents came. What's the and I'm about to talk about it. Don't worry. How would you describe that process of just them being able to get here? What's it like to go through to wait? It sounds like it's something you gotta wait a long time for. It's not just like, okay, they're coming, they can come.
Yep, they can get a ticket. It was absolutely a process of making a decision to come here and then to travel to Europe, because you can't fly out of Ukraine. There's no flights over Ukraine right now, so everyone had to travel to Europe and fly from there. When their husbands came in, I think it was just another special moment. First, Zoya's husband came, and I remember picking him up at the airport, and the kids were just so excited. But I can imagine for your husband to see a child that was 2 when she left, and then seeing her when she's 3 and already talking, and just a different kid, that was very special. And then Natalia's son felt a little left out because his dad didn't come.
He was crying.
Yep. He came then a couple months later, but that was heartbreaking for sure.
But he eventually got here.
Yep. Big reunion.
I guess I'm gonna ask a 2 questions in one, which is like a journalism no-no. So try to remember both of them. So how fortunate do you feel that at the very least, everybody but one, I'm not going to say distant cousin, but because you know what I mean, that everybody in the immediate family is okay, they're safe, you're all here now, you didn't lose anybody, but also, do you have how much survivor guilt do you feel knowing so many that lost family?
It's absolute truth that all you want to do right now is enjoy my family, and that's all I talk about, is how blessed I am that my family is here, all the benefits of having a family close. But the survivor guilt started even when I knew I'm safe and I knew they weren't, so that's when that started for me. And then now knowing that I was the lucky one to get all my family here. Because you think about it, you have had to had means too to bring a family here, and some people didn't. They had to ask for help or hope that they'll eventually be able to. So that was definitely hard, and I just felt blessed. I felt like finally I feel like maybe I moved here those 13 years ago for a reason, that now I'm able to help the rest of my family.
But in general, life is pretty sweet over here.
I would tell everyone that it is.
Yeah.
It is. All the things that I think I even learned to take for granted here or as a right really isn't.
Yeah.
Like a right to go for a peaceful run outside, right? We all think that we're entitled to it, but with the war in Ukraine, I learned it can be taken away pretty quickly. To let your kids go to school, to let your kids stay in school, to let them go play on the playground, maybe even by themselves with a 10-year-old. None of that is a right. It has definitely been earned for us here in US by those people that protect us and write policies and all those things involved. And in some countries it's taken away, like in Ukraine. You don't send your kids to school anymore. You can't go to work anymore. You know, all those things got taken away very quickly.
And from what I take it, because I still have so many questions about the war itself, where it's headed, this election, and I do want to get to both of you, but I guess I'll finish my chat with you, Alla, by asking, correct me if I'm wrong, it appears that there's no end in sight. The general feeling I get from keeping up is no one seems to be backing down, and no one seems to be winning in the most simple terms. So is that about correct? Like, it doesn't appear we know or have any idea when the end is coming. This is just going to keep going on.
That's how it sure seems for me, even being able to read news in both Ukrainian and Russian and English. I can definitely tell nobody's backing down. Nobody is ready for compromise. And I'm on the edge of those two decisions too. I want the war to be over as soon as possible because life loss every day is just unimaginable. But I also understand that we're so far into this war. Why can't good win, right? Why does good just have to settle? So I don't even know what the right decision is. I definitely know that, like I said, that loss of life is so unnecessary. But it's hard to know what the win is going to look like.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was wonderful. We're going to use 30 seconds of that.
That's all right. I'm still going to feel like I said everything I wanted to say.
In this case, we just might post that whole interview in the internet story, so people can hear the whole conversation if they'd like to take that time to get to know you and the whole story better.
Yeah.
Now,
so short little note. You know how I said Moldova is going to play a role in this?
I should have asked you, is there anything else that you'd like to tell me? So go ahead.
talk about, you know, fate and all those different things. So I met my husband, who's from Moldova, here in U.S.
Yes.
We stayed in U.S. When my sisters they knew they have to leave Ukraine,
Yeah.
but they didn't know where they're going to go to be safe and taken care of. The only reason they kind of felt good about leaving is they were going to go stay with my husband's family in Moldova.
Okay.
So they went out to Moldova and met my husband's family in person before I ever met him.
And before your husband.
Before they met my husband.
Yeah.
Yep. So they stayed with my husband's family in Moldova
For 2 months.
for 2 months, and then in another country in Europe for a few months, and then in U.S.
But when you met him here, because you met him here, and you didn't know,
I didn't know his
That whole
family
story.
in person,
you didn't
and
know
we
that he
didn't.
stayed with his family.
Oh no,
This
she knew.
Okay.
yes, yep. So I met him here 13 years ago,
Yeah.
and he was from Moldova. So as we lived here, there was no, other rhyme or reason to why we met, right? Besides that, we like each other. But when they had to escape the war,
Yeah.
they had his family to go to and stay with safely in Moldova. So I knew I
Okay.
orchestrated that.
Okay. Got it.
But if they had to just go and live as refugees somewhere in the camp, maybe they wouldn't be as willing to leave their homes. But they knew they were going to stay with family.
And what does that pic?
Yes.
Are you the one to tell me about the picture?
Sure.
Okay.
So the picture is one of the things that my dad brought from Ukraine when he was escaping the war last in September of 2023.
Okay.
The picture comes from our grandma's house that is currently destroyed. So there's nothing left of that house besides this picture on the wall. So now we have a picture that escaped the war with my dad.
It was with my grandma
Yep.
the whole her life.
Yep.
Like somebody gave her it as a gift when she was young,
Young.
like our age. And so I remember this picture from when I was born,
Mhm.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
just-
always on a wall in our grandma's house.
Mm-hmm.
And now this house is destroyed. But we have this picture.
Okay. So it was a gift to your grandma when she was young,
Yeah.
Yep. From a local painter. So
From
that's a
local
Ukrainian girl.
and that's her house.
And that's Ukrainian,
It's a
national
house.
Ukrainian clothes.
It's a house in that village. It's not necessarily
that
her
village.
house, but
That's
yeah.
not her house, yeah, but that's national Ukrainian clothes on both of them. Yeah, and it's like the picture that I remember
Yeah.
from
Staring at it when
Yeah.
you're a kid.
Okay.
It was always there on the wall. It's so weird sometimes to see it here
Mhm.
right now. Yeah. Our
Weird.
grandmas died a few months before the war started. by the
Grandma
way.
died a few months before the war.
Yeah.
Okay. Was she your last grandparent?
Yeah.
That was alive? Okay.
Yeah.
Died a few months before the war. Okay. Okay. Let's move
We're
the
done.
mic on down. Let me see what time.